When I say that women are more emotional, oftentimes that does relate directly to our biology and our hormone cycle, which is ever changing throughout a month. You guys have a much more steady, you're like this. That's just a reality. The reason I'm invoking biology is because biology oftentimes will dictate the fact that women are sometimes erratic throughout the month because we're changing so much all the time and you're not.
You're weaving a just so story. You're taking one biological fact and you're pretending like you're able to tell a coherent story afterwards. I could just as easily say the fact that women fluctuate in hormones more means that they're more able to deal with fluctuating emotions and ideas rather than men who, when they get triggered by something, decide to somebody. That would be an example of testosterone driving men in negative emotional ways, the same way that women's periods drive them in negative emotional ways, although women aren't anybody for it.
Let's say you had, a random room full of men, room full of women who had bad relationships. If you were to look back and see like how many tears had been shed as a result of those breakups, you don't feel comfortable saying that those women would have shed more tears?
Probably. I think women generally cry more.
Okay, so and that's not tied in any way to their hormones to you, not tied in any way to their emotional reaction to things?
It could be tied to hormones, but again, when we say more emotional, if I give you that same room of people and I say which one was more likely to physically a prior partner, would you say it was more likely the men or the women?
The men.
And it was probably driven by hormones?
Testosterone.
So how do we say one is more emotional than the other? Like everybody has their shit that they deal with. Like it might be slightly different on both sides, but just the blanket statements of like women are more emotional than men when men are like 98% of violent offenders. And then we even say things you said before. We're like, oh, well, men are driven towards achievement. Most of them aren't. But no offense, but like most men aren't high achievers. Most people aren't high achievers in general, right? Most people are like middle of the road. I understand monogamous relationships and I think that's cool and there's something beautiful there and that's awesome. And if people want to do that, I have full respect for that. Not only that, I would probably say that like 98% of people should be in those types of relationships. That's fine. But a lot of monogamous people have ways of doing things that they project onto me. And all I can say is that like the projection is not true, that either like I'm secretly jealous or I'm getting cucked or she's getting cucked or she's secretly jealous or whatever. The reality is that like all types of relationships have types of jealousies. Ours involves other people, but monogamous people say things like to me like, oh my God, like your relationship sounds insane. I could never do it. But then I look at a lot of monogamous relationships and a wife will be like, I don't like your new female coworker. You need to move offices. Or like a husband will be like, you went out yesterday with like some friends and there was a guy there. And I think you'll sleep with him if you have the chance to, so you're not allowed to go out with those friends anymore. And it's like, damn, there's like a lot of jealousy in monogamous relationships too.
As a guy, I always think of men as quite territorial by nature and that guys oftentimes should be wired, or vast majority of cases would be wired to be bothered by the idea of their woman being shared in any way or their woman going off and being intimate with somebody else.
Yeah, I guess like for me, I just like, I know the value that I provide in a relationship. I don't think my wife's going to leave me for anybody. If she doesn't, I find another wife, I guess.
Do you entertain the idea that somebody could fall in love with somebody else and that could be a big problem?
I'm a really cool guy. I don't think she's going to fall in love with anybody else. But if she does, then I'll just find a different, more compatible girl.
Okay, so somebody would hear that and say she's replaceable to you, and that's why this whole dynamic
If she was
works.
replaceable to me, I would have replaced her by now. Leadership requires empathy. It requires understanding, requires your ability to work with different people and to take into account all the things that they want and need. It's probably one of the most interpersonal, communicative, like feminine roles ever. Like to some extent, you set an example, sure, but it's your ability to manage people that sets you apart as a leader versus anybody else.
Women and men will lead differently.
They might, but I'm just saying that like even in a role that's considered traditionally masculine
trait.
Leadership. Didn't you literally say earlier in the show that like men want to be leaders is like a
in
masculine
the household
trait?
I'm talking about being head of household.
So in society you think men and women have the same proclivity for leadership?
I think but again, like men and women approach those things very, very differently.
For Allie, I say this all the time, and I would say it for you too. Like you guys you champion these like traditional gender roles, but I've had a lot of arguments and conversations. You're like very combative in a good way. I like that. It's fun, but like that's something that people consider like, oh, this is like a masculine thing. But you're more combative and better at it than like probably 99% of men on the planet, right? And I think Allie is too.
You and I may disagree about this, but there are things that are intrinsic. When I talk about majority of men and majority of women, I'm an outlier. Like maybe there are people that would say, oh, Jed's masculine because she's sitting at the mic and doing X, Y, and Z. I think for me, it's that there's been a lost appreciation for the things that are unique to womanhood. Like I think femininity is beautiful. I think that the ability to bear a child and carry that baby in your womb is beautiful. I think it's a superpower that guys can't do. I think it should be elevated. What I don't want to hear is, oh, these are all things that men can do and these are all the really cool things. No, that's not true. Those are the cool things if you're a woman trying to be a man. If this case is a sex case, why hasn't he been charged?
Because they're waiting to finish their investigation.
They've been digging on this guy for 11 plus months. Okay. They brought him and his brother into jail. They arrested him. They keep delaying. Okay. 30 days, 30 days, 30 days. They have not charged him with
They don't
anything.
have to charge him until they're ready to charge him.
No,
They have
they
180
don't,
days to do
They don't have to
Yeah.
under the Romanian system, which is deeply corrupt. That's absolutely insane. That could never
Nobody
happen
agrees
in
with
the
you.
United
That's fine that you think
States.
that.
Of course it is. He would have been charged already for that.
That's not true. The investigation might be sprawling. If I go and investigate some kid on the corner of the street who's selling and I find out, oh my God, I got dead to rights. I got a camera with him selling but then I've got a video of him talking to another person. I might not want to charge him because I might want to see who this other person is. And when I dig into that person, maybe it gets to the point to where this guy's like taking money from politicians. And I've got a whole ring built out where I can start charging crimes, but I might not want to do that because I want to see where the money goes. This is super common when you're talking about these huge investigations. You don't just find what they can charge immediately. That's so dumb.
But I believe any system is corrupt that is able to hold somebody for month after month after month without charging them.
But that's not a legal opinion. That's your personal feelings on it, which is fine. But you present these things as like legal, like, oh, it's a corrupt legal. Like you just feel like you don't like it.
It is corrupt. It
How
is corrupt because it's disgraceful that you're not. Why? You're submitting.
Why? Do you really want to know the reason? The reason why is because places like Romania do have a history of corruption. And when charges like these are coming down the pipeline, people just flee the country. That's why. That's the reason. And Romania has a history of this happening. For up to 180 days, if you can prove to a judge, that I have good evidence to hold them here, then that's...
If they had anything on him, they would have charged the guy already.
That's the fourth time you've said, just to be clear, you keep saying that and it's not true. You can hold them with enough to charge them and not charge them yet.
You can.
Yeah,
I'm saying
so what you're just saying is not true. Are you going to repeat it again?
And I find that communists do this all the time. I'm not saying you're a communist, but it's this promotion of mediocrity. And it's usually promotion of mediocrity by people who make a ton of money and who are in the elite and have options. The bottom line is you do have a lot. We both have money. I'm not wanting or hurting for money. You have a child. I don't know how old, but if you want to take your kid out of a school and put them in a better school, you can do that. That's all money. That is money. If you decide, for example,
I don't disagree. If you're making arguments that money can improve your life, I agree. But it improves your life in the margins. 80%, that big chunk that has to do with your relationship with family, relationship with God, relationship with yourself, these things are very lightly impacted by money, assuming you have enough to meet your financial needs.
If you are worried about money, and that is a financial, that's a stressor for you in any capacity.
If you're making 80K a year and you're worried about money, you're doing something wrong.
In where?
In
Miami?
95%. Wait, again, do you know what Miami is?
There is nothing wrong with aspiring to greater than you are.
There's anything wrong with it. Here's the only 2 points to make, okay? If you can make more money, you should always go for it. Having more money is always better than not having. That is absolutely what I said. What I said was having more money isn't going to fix, past a certain point, this 70 to 85% chunk in your life. So if you're having to make even more sacrifices to that chunk of your life to get more money, which is what you just criticized women for being on the grind and neglecting their households, if you have to sacrifice parts of your life in order to make that more money, you are probably prioritizing incorrectly. That's why there are so many people from my generation that are earning 70, 80, 90, 100, 110,000 a year that are working for tech companies and have all this money that sit at home, play video games. They have no friends. They don't really talk to their family. They're kind of isolated and alone, but they're making lots of money because money is such a small fraction of what you need to actually thrive as a human being.
Until you don't have it and you realize that.
That's why I said at least 70, 80K. Why are you saying don't have it? I never said don't have it. If you're making 20,000 a year, this speech is not for you.